let's jump into our top stories. We are, of course, talking all things Expo. We are super excited about it. And yesterday, the ruler of Dubai touring the Vision Pavilion is actually an emotional roller coaster. So every single day, we're inundated with reasons to visit Expo. And here's one more. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, he was at Expo yet again, and he was exploring a number of pavilions, including the Seychelles and Montenegro. But the one that's catching our attention this time is his visit to the Visionary Pavilion. And what's cool about this concept is it actually looks at his story, which is his book that brings 50 of his stories of life to paper. Now, the pavilion itself is opposite the Women's Pavilion, and within it you can actually explore the life of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed from childhood to present, and it's an immersive dive into the story of the nation, and it's just one more incredibly slick pavilion that we need to check out.
I think as no matter who you are, you go through a lot, right, in life. All these big moments aren't that significant to you in that moment, and you don't realize what big impact you're creating in your own personal life. And us mere individuals, we don't, it's not on a global scale or a national scale.
Yet.
Yeah.
Dream big.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Fingers crossed. But just generally to see what you've accomplished over the years, I think that's amazing. I would also be emotional. Like even going through my photos and seeing what happened within the last year, that gets me emotional. But to see how much you've developed a nation, everything you've gone through, I don't know.
Well, no, 100%, because this is it. The photos are touching because you're watching what we find incredibly inspiring, but to see the visionary within the Vision Pavilion and to watch that inspiring story unfold, and like I think if we want to visit, it's a 15-minute immersive experience. But there's incredible photos of him, touching parts of the experience that obviously mean the most to him. Parts of his work in equestrian, especially with his horse, which is very, very special. And it's just one more pavilion, which actually I wasn't even aware of, because I'm more aware of like the country pavilions, and then there's there's over 200 pavilions, but there's 192 country pavilions, and this is one of the extra ones that's there, and you can check it out, and I would really recommend it.
That's the thing, like you go into the expo thinking, whoa, I've seen a lot today, but there's always more, and there's
there's just people are just like, it's going to take weeks, if not years. I mean, like, how can they close it after 6 months when we will not fully have explored it? That's the thing.
I had a conversation with my dad, and he literally said the same thing. He was like, this needs to be extended more than the 6 months.
Fact, because we know. Like, I went there for an afternoon. I was there from like 11 till 6, and it just wasn't like I barely saw any of it. But some other updates on Expo, just so you're aware, nannies and housekeepers can actually visit for free throughout the whole time. You just need to bring your residency visa and your job title to the ticket booth, which is incredible.
100%.
And another one of the biggies from yesterday is Thomas Jefferson, who is, of course, the third US president. His copy of the Holy Quran is now on display at the US Pavilion, which is pretty cool because that obviously dates back to the I always get confused. So he was born in 1743. So is that the 1700s or does it get confused? Is that 1800s?
I think so, yeah. I think he's right. But also, by the way, this is the first time it leaves the United States ever, and it played such a massive significance. He was always fond of our region and the culture over here. He'd also celebrate Ramadan with people from around the world. So yeah, I think the entire Quran has a massive significance, like that specific one. He also got it translated to complete precision because he didn't want to misconstrue anything or have an information relate to him in a certain way.
So incredible to know that back then he was as open, and that's kind of literally what Expo is about, is this kind of open and tolerant personality and behavior. Shout out to Thomas Jefferson, we're learning more.
Good old Tommy. And also the Minnesota representative Keith Ellison became the first Muslim to become elected for Congress in 2006, and he chose to be sworn in with that specific Quran. So
interesting. Knowledge dropping down at the US Pavilion, and that's just another one to check out. We're trying to bring you all of the Expo updates every day, but we can't. But what we do love is your stories. So if you're down there at the site, please tag us in your stories at Lovin Dubai so we can reshare them, and also just get an even bigger picture. Like, I'd love to see that one of those like snapshots of everyone's stories at the end. Like if they had like this entire interactive display, which I feel like is like buzzwords at the moment, but this entire display of everyone's stories that they've shared from Expo and all the tags.
The dome.
Be so cool.
That would be literally the coolest thing ever.
We need to go and take some selfies.
What are you doing tomorrow? By the way, a good way to approach it is to go to the Expo every single day and do a pavilion. I think that we'll get through.
So there's 6 months. 6 multiplied by 30 is...
You can finish it in 4.5 months.
Oh.
I don't know if the math is correct.
No, you would do more in a day though.
Yeah, literally. But just like immerse yourself in each and every experience and live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Speaking of not